Welcome in, everyone. Today, we're cracking open those social studies notebooks, dusting off the cobwebs, and diving into some seriously big deals in history. Innovations.
Right, those aha moments that change the game.
We're talking ancient, medieval, modern eras, the whole shebang, and how these leaps forward really shook things up for, well, everyone.
It's not just like, here's the invention, ta-da. It's about the ripple effect.
Yeah.
How to change the way folks lived, worked, even thought.
You nailed it. Big picture stuff, the long game, not just a quick fad. So to make sure we're covering all our bases, we're focusing on the biggies: transportation, infrastructure, warfare, communication, healthcare, energy. And hold on to your hats, because we're kicking things off way back in the ancient era. Think 3500 BCE to 500 CE.
No smartphones, no cars, no internet. Makes you grateful for those history lessons, huh?
You kidding? I'd be lost. Okay, so first up, transportation, specifically those Phoenician boats. Now, for those of us who might have dozed off during that lecture, who were the Phoenicians and what made their boats so special?
All right, picture this. These guys were the kings and queens of the sea, expert sailors and traders, basically ruling the Mediterranean for, centuries. Their secret sauce, their boats, designed specifically for those long hauls, not just puttering around the coast. Developed around 3500 BCE, we're talking cutting edge for the time. Those rounded hulls, genius, could carry way more cargo than anyone else. Imagine seeing these things pulling into port, absolutely laden with exotic goods.
They were like the ancient world's shipping tycoons, and we're not talking a quick trip down the river here. Their trade routes were massive. I mean, check out this map. They cover the entire Mediterranean, from what's now Spain all the way to Egypt.
This was Amazon Prime, ancient edition, connecting different cultures, spreading ideas through trade. It's mind-boggling.
Okay, but I gotta ask, what did these ships actually look like? Give us the details.
All right, picture it. A Phoenician merchant ship, its prow cutting through the waves. On the upper deck, you've got a wicker fence.
A fence? On a boat?
Right. Not just for looks either. It protected those precious goods and, of course, the sailors from that salty spray. And get this, amphorae, packed in tight, filled with oil, wine, all the good stuff.
Hold up, amphorae? Those big clay pots? How many could they even fit on those things?
Hundreds, sometimes even thousands. It's no wonder they were the top dogs of Mediterranean trade. Oh, and here's a fun fact. Some even had horsehead decorations on the prow.
Horsehead decorations. Talk about ancient bling. They must really loved horses. Speaking of which, our notes mention something else revolutionary these Phoenicians gave us. And it's not what you'd expect. It's the alphabet.
Right. Easy to overlook, right? But think about it. These guys are making deals left and right. They need a way to keep track of it all. Their big brain move. Using symbols to represent sounds seems obvious now, but back then, groundbreaking.
So no more trying to decipher hieroglyphics or cuneiform?
Exactly. This was the birth of the phonetic alphabet, where each symbol meant a specific sound, made reading and writing way easier to learn, and the impact was huge.
This chart comparing the Phoenician alphabet to the Greek and even our own modern English alphabets is wild. So many of those ancient symbols are still recognizable today.
Right. It just goes to show the lasting impact of this, honestly, simple innovation. Imagine a world today, no user-friendly alphabet, no books, websites, even text messages.
Okay, now we're time traveling ahead. Hold on tight, we're jumping to the medieval era, roughly 500 to 1500 CE. And get this, your notes highlight a game changer that honestly doesn't sound that exciting at first. The stirrup.
The stirrup.
Yeah, you know those little loops you put your feet in when riding a horse?
Oh, okay.
How revolutionary could they be, right?
Well, don't let the simplicity fool you. The stirrup, which started popping up around 500 CE, might be one of history's most underrated inventions. Before that, imagine trying to stay on a horse, let alone fight from one. It was basically a recipe for disaster.
So less majestic knight, more like rodeo clown.
Pretty much. But then the stirrup comes along, and bam, game changer. Suddenly, riders have stability, balance, they can wield weapons effectively, charge with real force.
Hold on, I need to see this to believe it. We're pulling up some images for you right now. One shows a medieval knight, firmly in his stirrups, looking pretty darn intimidating with that lance. The other, let's just say this poor guy's going to need an ice pack without those stirrups.
Night and day, right. But the stirrup didn't just, revolutionize warfare. It had huge social implications, too. Knights, with their newfound battlefield dominance, they became the elite warriors, the backbone of feudalism, all thanks to a well-placed loop of leather. It's mind-blowing.
It really puts things in perspective. And while knights were changing the game on the battlefield, another innovation was brewing, one that would revolutionize the battle of ideas.
You talk about the printing press.
Ding, ding, ding.
Now that one's a game changer in the world of communication. Imagine for a sec a world where books were crazy expensive because each one had to be painstakingly handwritten.
Okay, pause right there. I can barely copy down my grocery list without messing it up. Hand copying an entire book. No way.
Right? It took forever. Tons of errors. Knowledge was basically for the elite few who could afford these handwritten masterpieces.
Yeah.
Then, bam, Gutenberg and his printing press hit the scene in the 1450s, and everything changes.
Game changer.
And talk about a glow-up for book production. Gutenberg's printing press with its movable type, oil-based ink, the whole shebang, cranking out hundreds of books in the time it took a monk to copy just one.
We've got images here showing the difference. One, you've got a monk hunched over a manuscript, meticulously copying each letter. Talk about tedious. The other, a diagram of Gutenberg's press. The movable type, the ink, that massive screw-type press. It's beautiful.
It just goes to show innovation often combines existing ideas in new and powerful ways. Remember those olive presses we talked about? Yeah, the screw press design, borrowed from Asian olive oil presses, and the paper itself, based on Chinese mass production techniques.
Talk about an innovation mashup. And the impact.
Revolutionary. Books weren't just for the wealthy and powerful anymore. Literacy rates skyrocketed, new ideas spread like wildfire, and knowledge became a force for change.
It's hard to overstate how significant the printing press was. Catalyst for the Renaissance, the scientific revolution. It's like it shifted the course of history. Speaking of changing history, next up, we're diving into an innovation that's credited with saving millions of lives. The smallpox vaccine.
Talk about a medical marvel. Before the vaccine, smallpox was a global nightmare, leaving a trail of devastation wherever it went. And it had been doing so for centuries, even millennia. We're talking potential evidence of smallpox found in Egyptian mummies dating back to 1145 BCE.
Egyptian mummies. So this wasn't just some ancient disease. It was a problem well into the modern era. And those images in your notes, pretty harrowing stuff.
It's a stark reminder of the devastating impact this disease had on humanity. Your notes mention it killed a staggering number of people in the 20th century alone, somewhere between 300 and 500 million.
It's terrifying to think about. Then, in 1796, along comes Edward Jenner, and bam, he develops the world's first vaccine, and it's for smallpox. What a legend.
Jenner was a true pioneer. He had this theory, based on observations of milkmaids who had gotten cowpox, that if you expose someone to a harmless version of a similar disease, their body could build up a resistance to the real deal. Risky move, if you ask me.
He basically injected someone with cowpox on purpose. Tell me it worked.
It did. Jenner's smallpox vaccine was revolutionary. It took time, sure, but his discovery paved the way for the eventual eradication of smallpox, a feat officially declared by the World Health Organization in 1978. Think about that. A disease that haunted humanity for centuries, wiped out thanks to a vaccine.
Wow. That's incredible. It's amazing we actually have physical reminders of this discovery. You've got images of Jenner and his cow, Blossom, right there in your notes. Talk about a famous bovine. There's even a piece of Blossom's hide preserved, a tangible link to this medical breakthrough.
It's a powerful reminder of how one innovative idea can change the game for human health. And speaking of changing the game, next up, we're diving into an invention that quite literally powered the modern world. The steam engine.
The steam engine, isn't that like really old school technology, all those gears and steam? It just doesn't seem that revolutionary.
Don't underestimate the power of steam. Developed in the 1700s by James Watt, the steam engine might seem old-fashioned now, but trust me, it was a total game changer. We're talking about harnessing the power of steam to do mechanical work, something that had never been done before.
Wait, so before the steam engine, everything was powered by what? Humans? Animals?
Pretty much. And water wheels. But those could only be used in specific locations. The steam engine. You could put it anywhere you could boil water. It all started with a simple, yet really annoying problem. How to get water out of coal mines more efficiently.
The glamorous world of 18th century mining. We're looking at a diagram of an early steam engine here, and I'll admit, it looks pretty complicated.
It was a pretty elegant solution to a messy problem. See that piston, rod, and flywheel? That's where the magic happened. This thing could convert heat energy into rotational force, which could then power all sorts of machinery.
So this wasn't just about making mining a bit easier. This was the Big Bang moment for the Industrial Revolution.
You got it. Suddenly, we could transform heat energy into mechanical force on a massive scale. The impact. Think trains, ships, factories. everything changed.
It's a lot to wrap my head around. It's like the steam engine flipped a switch and suddenly, boom, the modern world.
Faster transportation, mass production, the growth of cities, it even changed the very fabric of society. It's no coincidence that the steam engine pops up right alongside massive social upheaval. Suddenly, muscle power wasn't the main driver of industry anymore, which changed the relationship between workers and factory owners forever.
It's amazing how one invention could have such a ripple effect.
And that's just the beginning. We've got plenty more innovations to explore, each with its own fascinating story to tell.
From ships to alphabets to the mighty stirrup, the ancient era was full of surprises. But let's fast forward a bit, shall we? We're talking ancient Rome now. And your notes mention something that, at first glance, seems surprisingly simple. Essential, yes, but simple. Aqueducts.
Aqueducts.
Yeah, those ancient pipes.
Yes. The aqueduct.
What's so groundbreaking about those?
Don't let the seeming simplicity fool you. Roman aqueducts were engineering marvels and a testament to how much the Romans valued God infrastructure.
Okay, so not just pipes. But why was water management such a big deal for them?
Well, think about it. You can't have a thriving city without a reliable source of clean water.
Right.
The Romans, they understood that. And their aqueducts, they weren't just about quenching thirst. They were the backbone of Roman urban planning, public health.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Walk us through how these things actually worked.
All right, so picture this. You've got a freshwater source, a spring, a lake, whatever. It's miles away from the city. So the Romans, these master builders, they'd create this gently sloping channel, sometimes underground, sometimes supported by those iconic stone arches we see in pictures. And then gravity took over.
So no pumps, no fancy machinery, just gravity. That's surprisingly low tech.
Exactly. But that simplicity, that's the genius. They used their knowledge of surveying, materials, construction, all of it, to create this massive gravity-powered water delivery system. We're talking hundreds of aqueducts spanning their entire empire, thousands of miles long.
Hold on, we've got an image here showing a cross-section of a Roman aqueduct. It's amazing. There's the channel, the arches, even a system for, regulating water flow. It's more complicated than I thought. And it wasn't just for drinking fountains, was it?
Nope. Public baths were huge in Roman society. Think fountains, of course, but also sewers. Yeah, the Romans were surprisingly ahead of their time when it came to sanitation. And get this, aqueducts even powered mills. And they irrigated farmland. Talk about multi-purpose.
Wow, talk about a multi-purpose invention. It really makes you appreciate how crucial infrastructure is, even today. I mean, we take clean water, sanitation for granted, but those things don't just happen, do they?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Roman aqueducts, they're a powerful reminder that innovation isn't always about flashy new technology. Sometimes it's about solving those basic human needs in ingenious, sustainable ways.
And now, let's fast forward to the modern era. Things start moving at warp speed. We've covered communication in earlier eras, the Phoenician alphabet, the printing press, but nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared the world for what was to come. The internet. The ultimate game changer. How we communicate, share information, heck, how we live our lives. It's almost impossible to overstate its impact.
No kidding.
The internet, where do we even begin? It's like it's always been there.
It's funny you say that, because for as ubiquitous as it is now, the internet, at least the one we know and love, is actually relatively young. Its roots go back to the 1960s with this thing called ARPANET, a project funded by the U.S. Department of Defense.
Wait, so the internet was a military project?
Yep. The initial goal was to create this decentralized communication network that could withstand a nuclear attack.
Wild, huh?
That's intense. Right. But it wasn't until the 1980s, with the development of TCP/IP, those protocols that let different networks talk to each other, that the internet started to resemble what we use today.
And even then, we were still missing a key ingredient: the World Wide Web. The internet we know, and let's be honest, are slightly addicted to, with its web browsers, hyperlinks, all that good stuff. That didn't come along until the early 1990s.
Right. And thank goodness for Tim Berners-Lee, the brilliant mind who invented the World Wide Web in 1989. Before that, the internet was mostly the domain of academics and, tech whizzes. But the web, that opened the floodgates, made it accessible to everyone.
And boy, did things change quickly after that. We're talking instant communication, a world of information at your fingertips, online shopping, social media, the list goes on.
It was a full-blown communication revolution. The internet transformed how we work, learn, socialize, consume information. It even changed how we think. And honestly, we're still trying to wrap our heads around it all.
It's like the internet took the concept of a global village and made it real. connected people in ways we never thought possible. But we didn't stop there, did we? Oh no, we took that power, that connectivity, we crammed it into our pockets. Enter the smartphone.
Ah, the smartphone. It's amazing to think something that fits in the palm of your hand has become like an extension of ourselves, our constant companion, our portal to the world.
And it happens so fast. I remember my first cell phone. Clunky thing. Could barely make calls, let alone surf the web. Can you believe there were smartphones before the iPhone? I dug up this old IBM Simon thing. It's a brick.
It's practically a museum piece now.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It was the iPhone back in 2007 that really changed the game. That sleek design, the intuitive interface, the apps. It changed how we interacted with technology.
And now our smartphones, they're everything. Our camera, our GPS, our music player, our gaming device.
Don't forget our connection to everyone and everything. Friends, family, the world, social media, messaging apps. It's easy to forget what life was like before we could just pull out our phone and instantly connect with anyone, anywhere.
It's truly mind-boggling. But for all its wonders, for all its connectivity and convenience, the smartphone has also brought its share of challenges.
Absolutely.
We're dealing with issues of privacy, information overload, even addiction. It's a double-edged sword, for sure. A powerful tool that requires, let's be honest, some careful, mindful use.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Now, speaking of revolutionary technologies with the potential to, well, change everything, your notes mention something called CRISPR. It sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. CRISPR. It does sound like something straight out of a futuristic thriller. What exactly is this CRISPR thing?
Okay, get ready for the sciencey bit. CRISPR stands for Clustered, Regularly Interspaced Short Palindromic Repeats.
Catchy. I'm lost already.
I know, right? But stick with me. This one's a biggie. Basically, CRISPR is a gene editing technology. I'm talking revolutionary. It gives scientists the power to change DNA sequences, and I mean precisely.
So, like, instead of cutting and pasting words in a document, we're talking about the building blocks of life.
Exactly. With CRISPR, scientists can target specific genes, like finding a typo in a massive library, and then disable them, correct mutations, even insert new genetic material. It's incredible.
Wow. Okay, with that kind of power, what could we even do with that? What are the possibilities?
It's mind-blowing. Imagine curing genetic diseases, the ones that have been around for centuries. Cystic fibrosis, Huntington's disease, maybe even cancer.
Wait, cure cancer? By fixing the genes that cause it?
That's the hope. And it's not just treating diseases either. Imagine engineering crops that can handle drought, resist pests. We could reduce pesticide use, make agriculture way more resilient to climate change.
It's like we could solve some of the world's biggest challenges with this.
The possibilities are super exciting. But remember what you said about the smartphone. Every powerful tool has two sides.
The ethical side of things. Tinkering with the building blocks of life. Yeah, that's something we need to consider very carefully.
For sure. We're talking huge questions here. What happens if we mess something up in the human genome? Could we end up with designer babies? These aren't just hypotheticals. They're real issues we got to address as CRISPR gets even more advanced.
It's both exhilarating and a little bit terrifying at the same time. And speaking of pushing boundaries, your notes also mention space exploration. I still remember watching that grainy footage of Neil Armstrong taking those first steps on the moon. It was like we'd entered a new era.
The Apollo 11 mission back in '69, that was definitely a turning point. It showed everyone what we could do if we just, set our minds to it, reach for the stars.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Still gives me chills.
Iconic moment. And the thing about space exploration is, it's not just about planting a flag on another planet. It's about pushing those boundaries of human knowledge, ingenuity.
And it's given us so much more than just cool photos from space.
Oh, absolutely. GPS, satellite communication, even medical technologies. They all have roots in the space exploration. Plus, there's just something awe-inspiring about looking at the stars and knowing we've sent probes to Mars, built a whole space station where people live. It changes your perspective a bit,
It really does. But let's be real, space exploration is crazy expensive. Dangerous, too. What's the payoff? What makes it all worthwhile?
$1 million question. For me, it boils down to the thrill of discovery. What's out there? Could there be life, even tiny microbes, on other planets? These are questions we've asked for centuries, and space exploration gives us a chance to find answers.
The ultimate adventure. And speaking of adventures, let's switch gears a bit and talk about a different kind of exploration, one focused on a cleaner, more sustainable future renewable energy. I'm ready for some good news here.
Renewable energy is definitely a bright spot. We've leaned on fossil fuels for ages, but those days are numbered. For one thing, they're finite resources. They will run out. And the impact they have on the planet, well, we're living it.
Climate change is the biggest challenge we face. What can renewable energy sources, solar, wind, geothermal, hydropower offer as an alternative?
Here's the beauty. They're renewable. The sun, wind, heat from the earth itself. These are energy sources that aren't going anywhere.
Plus, no harmful emissions. I'm seeing more and more solar panels on rooftops, wind turbines popping up, and don't even get me started on electric cars. They're everywhere now.
It's encouraging, right?
Yeah.
But it's not a walk in the park either. Switching to a renewable energy future, that's a massive global undertaking. Investing in research, new infrastructure, getting everyone on board, it's a lot.
But the alternative is unthinkable, isn't it?
It is. The future hinges on us making this transition, on finding cleaner, more sustainable ways to power our world. It's not just about saving the planet, it's about ensuring a brighter future for everyone. And speaking of the future, your notes mention a field that's changing faster than we can keep up. Artificial intelligence.
AI. It's everywhere I look these days. Self-driving cars, those virtual assistants, even those ads that seem to read my mind. What's the big deal with AI? How's it changing things?
AI is fundamentally changing how we live, work, interact with everything. And honestly, we're just getting started. At its core, AI is about building machines that can learn, reason, make decisions, like humans.
Okay, that's both impressive and a little unnerving, right? But what are we using it for now? What are the most impactful applications?
One of the biggest is healthcare. Imagine algorithms that can analyze mountains of patient data, medical images, research way more than any human could handle, and use that to identify patterns, make predictions about diseases.
So instead of a doctor's best guess, we could have AI helping with diagnosis, treatment plans, even surgery.
Exactly. We're already seeing it happen. AI detecting cancer earlier, personalizing treatments, even assisting surgeons during those really complex procedures.
Like something out of Star Trek. But it's not just about futuristic robots doing brain surgery. What about the AI that's already part of our everyday lives?
Oh, it's everywhere. Those personalized recommendations on Netflix. AI chatbots answering your questions online. AI. Even the spam filters saving your inbox from utter chaos. You guessed it, AI. And then there are those bigger applications like self-driving cars, financial modeling, fraud detection.
It's a lot. Impressive, but overwhelming. And it's changing so fast, makes you wonder what the world will even look like in a few years. But before we get ahead of ourselves, maybe we should talk about the ethical side of AI. Because with great power comes great responsibility, right?
100%. As AI gets smarter, we need to think about those algorithms, make sure they're not biased. We have to protect people's privacy. And then there's the impact on jobs. These aren't easy questions, but they're conversations we need to have. AI has to be developed and used responsibly in a way that benefits everyone.
Well said. Wow, we covered a lot of ground today. From ancient ships to gene editing, the birth of the internet to the rise of AI, it's been quite a journey. So as we wrap things up, what are the key takeaways here? What can we learn from exploring all these innovations?
I think the biggest takeaway is that innovation never stops. It's this constant drive to solve problems, improve our lives, see what's possible.
And these innovations, they don't just happen out of nowhere, do they? We've seen how they build on each other, how ideas from different cultures and eras can come together in surprising ways.
Exactly. Gutenberg's printing press wouldn't have existed without papermaking from China, or the screw press design from way back, and the internet. Decades of research in computing, networks, web technologies, it all led to that moment.
It shows how connected everything is. One breakthrough leads to another.
And every single innovation, big or small, has the potential to change things. The stirrup changed how wars were fought. The steam engine fueled the Industrial Revolution. And who knows what ripple effects AI or CRISPR will have in the coming decades.
That's what makes this so fascinating. The future is unwritten, and the possibilities are endless. But as we've seen today, it's crucial to approach these new frontiers with curiosity, with a bit of caution, and with a commitment to using these incredible tools for good.
Couldn't agree more.
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this whirlwind tour of history's most impactful innovations. Catch you next time.